Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Product Show. Today we have planned something a little bit different. There is one question I've been asking almost all our guests. Have you ever done a small UX tweak or a product improvement that had a disproportionately high impact on the product, considering the effort it required? A tiny UX tweak that turned into a big win. In fact, finding out the answer to this question was my main motivation to start this podcast. Can we all learn tactical tips from successful founders and some of the brightest minds in the product community that we can use as an inspiration for our own experiments or even apply them straight away? Today, 10 of our guests are answering my favorite question, small UX tweaks that turned into big wins. We have people from Dropbox, HubSpot, HotJar, Revolut, Wise and more. Enjoy this episode and don't forget to subscribe to our channels wherever you're watching or listening.
Welcome to The Product Show. Insightful interviews with founders and tech leaders sharing how they hack product growth.
Some of the smallest things that we've ever done, have actually made the biggest impact from a UI point of view. So we actually put a rating on our profile pages that actually showed people's review score in a different way as a percent rather than as a 5-star. We still showed the star rating, but we changed that to a percent, and that people went crazy for that. They absolutely love that. That was probably one of our biggest tweaks, and one of our most interesting tweaks on the review collection side is we changed how people selected their actual rating, and that UX tweak absolutely put our conversion through the roof. It made, I think we got like 300% higher conversion just by how they were selecting the star ratings. So it was really interesting.
So we originally had bank details as part of your currency balances. So you would open your GBP balance and see your bank details. You'd open your Euro balance and see your Euro IBAN, etc. And so we ran a bunch of user research and tested some prototypes around a change to that UI. And by moving bank details into a separate section in the app under account settings, we found that discoverability changed immediately. People really suddenly understood and were better educated about what these were and how to use them. And as a result, the number of people using TransferWise to receive money from around the world has seen really high growth from a result of that.
It's usually a lot of small tweaks that eventually get you results. So, but on the other hand, the one thing we did, and I advise not to do, is we did something that was unusual, that people were not used to, and that was a very bad idea because people were not used to it, so they didn't understand it, and that was a blocker in subscribing. And what we did, instead of having a pricing page that says $49.99, $199, we just had a scroll bar where you say, how many users do you need, how many profiles do you need, and so on and so forth. And then it would give you the price. So you couldn't see the price up front. Okay, how much is it? And that was really bad. And when we switched back to a more regular pricing page, $99, $199, this is all you get, conversion skyrocketed. So don't try to reinvent the wheel if you don't have to, or if it's not going to create tremendous value.
I guess this is sort of small, I think, in the way that a user would imagine.
It's never small, right?
It's never small.
It comes from months and years of experience.
So what was a really cool change that we made, and this was quite a while ago, was switching the way that we surface products on our product list pages. So classically on e-com, it would be a grid view, products just in grids and lists, and you'd be able to scroll down.
Right.
However, a year ago, we actually had a horizontal carousel that you'd swipe across. During very early user interviews with some customers, people were finding, and they were saying, and normally what you find in user interviews is actually they're very likely to be okay with certain friction. They're often much more open to it because they're in an interview. They're like, yeah, I'm not too bothered with doing that thing. But actually what we found whilst interviewing them was that flicking horizontally through these products, they were actually getting mentally tired during the interview, which for me was a big alarm bell if they're surfacing that kind of issue in an interview, it's much more likely to even be amplified when, you've got a few minutes, you just want to quickly look at a site and quickly find something to buy. You're in a rush, you're on your phone, you're not in an interview situation where you've got loads of time. And they were saying that basically they were getting tired from looking through all these products. And by the end of the kind of swiping process, they weren't sure exactly what they saw at the beginning of the process. So from that, really simply, we thought, why don't we try thinking about a grid view? Our range has expanded since we had this horizontal kind of browsing experience, and we changed it to be vertically scrolling and a grid view. And again, like a huge impact on conversion rate. Sounds quite simple, sounds quite small. Obviously, it took a lot of kind of effort to get there and a bit of surfacing that insight. But really, really interesting change that dramatically changed the way our users actually interacted with the site.
So we recently launched a Slack integration. It was toward the end of last year. And in the Slack integration, so I'll speak as a customer. This is like how I speak every day. So as a HotJar user, I use HotJar and I also use Slack within my company. And whenever I receive, whenever my company collects some feedback from our users, we want to see it and not let it go unlistened to, right? Because the voice of the customer matters so much. So actually what we did at HotJar was we launched an integration with Slack such that anytime a customer leaves feedback or you have a new recording come in, you can receive this in a Slack channel set up for this, or you can choose where they're routed to in your Slack channels. And the results of this have been pretty astonishing so far. I wouldn't say that this is an improvement per se. It's just a really small, like, lateral move into some new space and thinking about what are the use cases of our customers, right? What are their jobs to be done? Their job to be done is to listen to the voice of the customer, make sure that they can hear it, and then take action. And so this Slack integration, we've seen a really, really healthy uplift in retention, in the frequency of use, and the number of users per account that are added, because when some folks see, hey, this user just left you feedback, that's a really nice loop for us to attract new users within the same account. So I would say that's one good example. Specifically about the experience in terms of an improvement, my mind goes to something that I worked on at Skyscanner, which was when you're traveling and you would choose your travel dates. We noticed that a lot of travelers this is pre-COVID, by the way. I know this sounds like ancient history, but a lot of travelers once upon a time used to like choose their travel dates based on public holidays. Right? So you'd say, oh, okay, there's a 3-day weekend, but if I take off 2 days of work, I can go away for 5 days, right? And so what we did was we used an API from a holiday, like a public holidays calendar, an open source API out there. And we built that into our product such that as a user based in the UK, when I go to choose dates, it showed me on the calendar which dates were public holidays. That way I wouldn't have to go Google when are the August bank holidays this year, right? And so we did this for, I think it was like the top 10 markets by volume of flight search for Skyscanner. And we saw some really, really nice results there. And this is something that I built while I was there. And we actually went on to build on top of this further and further in some marketing campaigns, in some nice landing pages. So just a small tweak of like, show on a Friday that this is a holiday, and you'll get people to say, oh, okay, that this is more realistic. I don't have to jump from my Skyscanner tab to go look up the holiday schedule and then come back, because you know that anytime somebody leave your product to go somewhere else to do research, the chance that they actually return to finish the job to be done sinks, right? So this had an outsized impact.
So look, I think one thing we did recently was we ran a pricing experiment for it was 3 or 4 months. We ran it, and I mean, what we did, like an A/B test effectively of, we had booking fees on the app, and we had 2 different sets of pricing for a booking fee. The output from it was, the higher fees had no impact on new activation of new users, which was really insightful in a way, because I'd had or not just me, probably largely me, you have a worry, like, is pricing, because as I was talking about earlier, pricing, childcare is expensive, and we put a huge amount into our service, and we think we're giving amazing value, but keeping it affordable is the challenge when you're approaching the mass market. So we think a lot about our pricing. So we ran this A/B test experiment, and almost surprisingly, in a way, it made no impact. And pricing is like one thing I've always massively struggled to test for. Naturally, you're giving a lot. The natural thing people tell you is test, A/B test everything. I think I always found that really difficult to do with pricing, because so much of how customers respond to your pricing is framing and behavioral economics, and asking customers what they pay for something is impossible. It's almost like that. You need to see what they do. So I think pricing testing is really hard, full stop. But actually running the experiment and seeing no impact really, it kind of, in a way, it proved out some of our hypothesis, which is like price with a product like ours isn't the determining factor. It's trust. We know parents need our service, and our price is only a fraction of the overall price that they're paying for childcare. And it proved that out for us, because naturally, instinctively, you can think, well, lower my pricing and I'll get more customers. And that's not actually true. Sometimes that has the opposite effect. We have if you want customers to value your service, in a way, you need to charge them. And as I was saying, framing is so important. If you charge a really low amount or you give it away for free, all of a sudden that benchmark is set and your customer believes your product's not worth anything. And then when you try and raise it later or try and explain to them why it is, it's a really hard battle to win. So that was something we did recently, which was really interesting for us.
Yeah, I think the amazing thing about HubSpot Academy is going back to what we were saying about how there are different personas and people in HubSpot Academy who are trying to get different things out of it. Early on, we focused a lot on the certifications and what they could do for our users. There came a time when we were really bolstering HubSpot Academy as a acquisition channel, and we wanted to attract new people in. And we found that the people looking and searching Google for certifications were kind of different than people who are looking for online courses. And so we made this little positioning tweak where we just started referring to HubSpot Academy more as a online course provider, and the courses in HubSpot Academy as a online course rather than a certification. And we saw not only a big increase in organic search and kind of conversions into those courses, but also the type of user who is finding them was slightly different. So rather than having people who are looking for jobs or looking for this kind of badge of approval to add to their resume or their LinkedIn profile, which by all means we want those people too. Like there's no reason to not have those folks come in as well. But we saw more kind of business professionals who were like upskilling and just trying to learn the latest, greatest tactics. And that was interesting because those users lend themselves more to monetizing and buying HubSpot because they had some challenge. They wanted to learn content marketing by taking an online course about content marketing. They didn't necessarily need a certification. They had a job that they were comfortable in and they were good, but the tools that they could then apply to do that content marketing strategy, they all exist in HubSpot. So it was kind of a nice, easy connection between, okay, here's this online course about content marketing. You can learn all these great strategies and tactics. This is really hard to do without some kind of automation and software to help you do it, particularly if you're, a small team in a small or medium-sized business. Here's a whole bunch of software, that can help you do that. And like the free tier of HubSpot has a whole bunch of tools that they can use to help improve their content marketing strategy. So just that positioning change kind of better aligned the new users with HubSpot software at the end of the funnel.
I think I'm a firm believer in the butterfly effect. And I think that with experimentation, constant experimentation, and by doing small tweaks here and there, you can get very, very strong results. So I don't know, one of the most impactful, there were two things that we did, two big campaigns that are very close to my heart. So one of them was a Revolut tour. So basically I embarked on a journey picking the cities in Romania with the biggest communities of Revolut users, and I organized events in order to meet with these users. What I did differently, as opposed to how we were doing things back then, was that I instead of inviting to those events just our most active users, I kept those events open to the public because this was going to later on create network effects. You'd speak in front of a room, half of it are active users of your product and evangelists. Half of them are just interested in finding out more. At the end of the event, you're not going to be the only one answering questions about the product. Half of your room is, and this actually got the ball rolling. And then one other thing, back then we had the possibility of offering users when signing up the first card for free. So in order to do that, they had to sign up at a specific promo link. And again, I did a very small tweak. I said, I don't want my users to get the first card order for free only if they sign up at the promo link, because this means that we're going to create a lot of business debt for the customer support teams. There are going to be people that are just going to download the app and then they're no longer going to be eligible for the card, and this creates a barrier to growth. How about we just change the pricing for the first card order in app to $0 for 5 days straight? Just give me 5 days to test it out. And we were 75K users by then, and we acquired 25K users, the remaining until 100K over the next 5 days, because it went like it went viral online. So it's basically looking at the low-hanging fruits, the playbooks, looking at what your colleagues did, and just doing small tweaks in order to improve and to get exponential results.
Yeah, we did a tweak in the onboarding. So we discovered that we were losing users during onboarding. Too much. Too many users during onboarding. So we decided, okay, well, what if we gave people an opportunity to, onboard to a certain extent, but then see a bit of the app. But so we basically, users who are onboarding can see a taster of the app, but without seeing anyone's personal data. So say if someone's writing a post on the feed, they're not going to see who that person's name is. But then if the person onboarding then wants to actually get involved, they need to finish, if they want to comment or connect with anyone, they have to finish the onboarding process. So I think it's just a bit of a try before you buy, not that you're buying, it's free, but and that's made a really big difference with people completing onboarding. So that's the main one I can think of. We also did at the beginning of lockdown last year, we had in the pipeline to launch a virtual meetup and group messaging, group chats option, and we brought that forward and just boshed it out as quickly as we could, and that proved to be hugely important and impactful. I mean, group chats for us is massive, and the virtual meetups, I think, has kept the Frollo community sane during the last year. So the engagement levels kind of went through the roof once we launched those two features.
I guess, yeah, I mean, just very recently, right now I'm working with a company, and it's a marketplace for business catering. And I think they were, what they've learned is recently is that people don't necessarily need to trust the marketplace. They need to trust that they're going to find good caterers. And so having messaging around, hey, we're this great marketplace, didn't do as well as messaging around, just giving them feedback on the different caterers and making it easy for them to select the right end caterer for their needs. And so they did some, they just had this idea from customer interviews, and they did some A/B tests of different messaging, and they found that this had a really big impact on their conversion rate.
I'm gonna share one particular story that I really like, because to me it embodies the ideal growth team win. And what that win looks like is when a growth team does research to understand what the problem is, works with all cross-functional partners that are required to make a better experience, meaning we really actually improve the user experience, and that user experience drives business results. To me, that should be the playbook that growth operates on. And I really like that idea, because sometimes growth is considered like, hey, designers need to balance user experience and business results. And it's very true, we do. But the aspirational state is not necessarily even just balancing, but we create better experiences that create more business results. And there's that win-win world where we can really focus on maximizing experiences to drive business results. So to ground this in an example, at Dropbox, one of the teams we have is called acquisition and growth, and they manage the basically the Dropbox.com, where again people will discover, evaluate, and determine to try particular products. And one of the areas of opportunities for us was in one of our key pages and journeys, where which you can go to. It's Dropbox.com/individual, and you can see we recently updated that page. And we had been doing a lot of research on the website and how people go through that journey, meaning, there's a lot of different entry points. The user might land on the homepage, then they might determine that a particular product is right for them and go to an individual page and then go to a plans page. And from doing a lot of research, we found that people didn't understand what Dropbox was and what it could do for them, particularly if they were a personal user. So, how does Dropbox help me share my files? What does it mean for my files to be in the cloud? Questions like that. And knowing that was a problem, okay, people don't understand what Dropbox is, what it can do for them. We set out on exploring different ways to solve that. And one key to successful approach here is we worked with brand design, we worked with marketing, we worked with marketing writing, basically content, product design, and then of course the key like engineering, product research, and analysts. And it was really important that we worked with brand and marketing and writing, which maybe are sometimes considered less key partners in a lot of product development, but for growth is really, really essential because some of the areas, some of the problem areas were brand problems. Or maybe I should say we had an opportunity to use brand to help people understand what Dropbox is and what it can do for them. We had an opportunity to use writing, clear language to help users understand. So did a lot of kind of typical design process where we brought people in, we did some brainstorming. We came up with some key principles about how we would approach the solution space, and some of them map to our company values, such as one of our company values is make work human, which I really love. And when we took that company value in to our sessions and we looked at the current experience, we realized there are some gaps between how our webpage is and what our value is, such as some of our imagery was overly abstract and a little bit more like, almost like modern art, and less about like people using software. We didn't have as much images of what the software was. So people didn't really understand Dropbox. Well, we weren't really showing them what it was and how it could fit into their world. And then when we looked at some of the ways that some of the copy was written, again, it was there was an opportunity to make it about what the value we provided to a user in terms of what either their job to be done was, or given their potential needs. So the end experience was basically a page that had a much better flow. So kind of the true user experience stuff. We knew where users were coming from and where they would land and how they would work through that page in a productive way. It used updated brand imagery that had real people and copy that was about users and what it could do for them. Overall, a much better user experience. People could more easily determine what Dropbox was and what it could do for them. It fit in with our brand and marketing guidelines and ultimately drove business results. So I love that story because we were able to win across the board. We updated the page to be more in line with our company values of making it human. It was a better brand experience, a better marketing experience, overall better customer experience, and people ended up converting better. And I just love that playbook.
The Product Show is brought to you by Pony, a design studio helping startups and scale-ups build and optimize their digital products at speed. Check pony.studio to learn more.